Welcome to REST, which stands for Resiliency and Empowerment Seminar today. I am your host, Susan Gans, and I am the founder and business strategist with Gans Strategic Solutions, where we operate at the intersection of business and human behavior. For more information about Gans Strategic Solutions, please go to www.gansstrategicsolutions.com. This show is about hearing from leaders of small, mid-sized businesses, as well as nonprofits. We hear about their journeys, their organizations, and very importantly these days, about how they're being resilient. I am so excited today to have my guest, Sheila Murphy. And here's a bit about Sheila. After 20 years of successfully litigating and developing and coaching talent in corporate America and in law firms, Sheila is pursuing her passion for helping others reach their full potential. Leading with passion and purpose, Sheila is CEO and President of Focus Forward Consulting, LLC, and Chief Learning and Talent Officer of Women, LLC, which are focused on having lawyers, leaders, and legal organizations achieve their career and business goals. She also continues to support the financial industry in her role as an expert and consultant at Bates Group. Prior to that, she was Senior Vice President and Associate General Counsel at MetLife, where she provided litigation, regulatory, and risk mitigation advice. Sheila is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania Law School, where she served on the Comparative Labor Law Journal and the School of Management in the State University of New York at Binghamton, where she graduated magna cum laude. Sheila also earned her Associate Certified Coach and Certified Professional Co-Active Coach from the International Coaching Federation and the Co-Active Leadership Institute, respectively. And you can imagine that Sheila is a frequent speaker on litigation and regulatory issues, as well as talent, business development, leadership, and diversity. So welcome to the show, Sheila. It's so wonderful to have you here.
I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
Wonderful. So let's dive in. Take us back to the earlier days of your career. How did you decide that you wanted to go into law?
Well, I think like most people in my generation, probably To Kill a Mockingbird had a lot to do with it. I remember that book being sort of one that touched me. So somehow I went from feeling about social justice and being motivated to and ending up being an insurance lawyer. Somehow the journey maybe got a little bit twisted during it all. But it really was, and I think this goes to even your business model when I think about why I have pursued the different career paths that I have. It really is about that intersection of both strategy and humanity, and finding a place where you can make the difference for people and still be able to capitalize or leverage, your strategic thinking skills. Because, that's the power when you have both of those things.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the power in there, because it's really empowering people. So how do you personally empower people? And then how do you empower yourself?
When I look back to my career and managing a large team at a Fortune 50 company, to me, part of my management philosophy was honesty and empowerment. Because I believe that if I left the company with me as the only talented individual, then I hadn't served that company well. However, when I engaged, educated, and empowered my team to do greater things than I could do on my own, the company was stronger at the time and would be for the future. So I spent a lot of time working to understand both the strengths and the opportunities of the people I was working with, and to focus on how they developed and get them stretch opportunities that could get them to the position that they were most meant to be in. Not necessarily where they were today. I had some people who, in working with them, they left the company. They left to do different things, even left legal. But they found a better place for them, given, their value system, their strengths, and, what they could leverage.
So it sounds like you saw a vision of them greater than themselves and help them navigate to that path. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, my greatest achievement when people talk to you, look back in your career, is the fact that so many of the people who I worked with um, have gone on to such powerful, great things. Nothing makes me happier. And I have monthly calls with lots of them. And even during the pandemic, we have a month, we're probably even seeing each other more because we have every Monday, once a month, Monday cocktail hour. And it's just wonderful. And they continue to do great things. When you empower people and it becomes a habit for them, they believe in themselves. And when people believe in themselves, it's incredible what they can accomplish.
Absolutely agreed 100%. So you believed in yourself to launch your own company. So talk about that transition from a structured corporate legal position to now your leadership and coaching company.
Okay. Well, it was one of the best things that I've ever done, and I love the fact that I've done it. I will tell you, being a lawyer, and probably a little bit risk adverse, because lawyers are known to be, I really set a table and started working on this early on and thought about what it would be to mitigate some of those risks. But the idea of empowering myself to create the career and the business that I wanted at this point in my life is really one of my greatest accomplishments. To wake up and to realize the value I can give to others and feel totally fulfilled in what I think is my purpose is great. Well, I had a fabulous career in corporate America, and I loved most of it, like I think more than most people. It was time for a change, and it was a time for this change that really spoke to me.
And what have you translated, let's say, from your corporate life to your entrepreneurial life? And what have you learned along the way as an entrepreneur?
I learned that I really depended to miss my secretary of 20-something years. Uh, and that she spoiled me rotten, so I probably should have brushed up on the old technology skills before I launched. But what I have learned is bringing some of that business sense and understanding how business operates and having a plan. And like I said earlier, I'm a natural planner. It's how I think. So even years ago, when I was even just considering doing this, I started launching balloons. I started talking to people. I started working on what my brand would be. All of the components of the business, what would my revenue model look like? So having that structure from corporate America gave me a strength in terms of how I was going to go forward. The other thing that I think I brought is the fact that because I have developed a ton of people who have been really successful in corporate America, and for many years worked with women who are in law firms to teach them how to sell themselves to corporate America, because I have this purpose of also lifting up women and people of color into greater leadership positions, primarily probably in the legal field, because that's where I have had the most background. So to me, it's all about, lifting up people to get them to that next level. And I've brought what I've learned from corporate America and how they operate, both as how they promote and advance people, but also as they hire people and engage people, to my business. So I bring that sort of knowledge that I think adds something to my coaching and consulting that you may not get from someone who doesn't have that background.
Yeah, so what I'm getting from you is that structure, that planning, that overall business sense is part of it. And two is the relationships that you've developed over time. And those can be your raving fans, so to speak. And then the third is just an approach, an inclusive approach to bringing out the best of people and empowering them to get to that next level.
Right. And I think the inclusiveness and the belonging is really critical at this juncture. It always was. I think it's more so now. And I think it's taking the time, being vulnerable, and also being willing to make mistakes when you're when you're trying to promote or advance people who are different than you, look different than you, because sometimes you're going to step in it. But if you don't have those conversations, you don't learn, and you don't learn about them to help them in the way that you can. There is in a morass in corporate America of how to navigate to success. And people tend to get some of that information from their sponsors who are normally look just like them. So when you're someone who doesn't look like everyone else, you don't have someone who can help you with the roadmap. And that's what, you need to be able to do. But to do that, you need to understand where people are coming from and sometimes have difficult conversations, and ones that might make you feel uncomfortable.
Yes, let's talk about that, because I talk a lot about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And especially during the pandemic, there's so much change that's part of the everyday now, is to be able to embrace that change and work through it. And now on top of that, there's a movement I'm very excited about to have more diverse and inclusive workforces. So what are your suggestions, tips of how to get people comfortable with the uncomfortable and that vulnerability, and making it okay to make mistakes? Because I say that too, you're not going to get it perfect, and it's like riding on a bicycle. You just have to get back up and keep going.
I think the first is to establish that relationship of trust, so people know that you're coming from a place of good, and that what you're trying to do is understand so that you can help advance them, that it's not your own agenda or the company's agenda, but that you really honestly want to help people. And the people can tell when you do, and people can tell when you're trying to check the box because you've been told you have to increase your diversity numbers. They know the difference between someone who is there because they care and they want to help people, and they know when people are there to further their own success. So I think it's going and being with a genuine heart. And if you do step in it, admit it, explain what your thinking was. And then you actually sometimes have those magic dialogues where some of the learning comes in. When you admit that your vulnerability as to why you didn't do something or say something because you thought it might be taken the wrong way, all of a sudden a gap starts to decrease. And that's where, to me, the magic happens.
I agree with you. Part of the learning is making the mistakes sometimes, and to make it okay to have that open and honest dialogue around, well, what can I learn from this situation? I had a mentor who told me that there are two types of experiences in life: positive experiences and learning experiences. And I especially pass that down to my children.
Yeah, it doesn't always seem that way in the moment. But I totally agree with you in terms of that.
Absolutely. So I can imagine you've been a mentor and sponsor along the way in your career. Who have been your mentors and sponsors, and have they changed over time?
In my view, you never abandon mentees or proteges or mentors or sponsors. The relationship may change. You may need additional mentors and sponsors. But I would tell you that both my mentors and my sponsors were people very different than me. A Black woman was one of my strongest sponsors and mentors in corporate America, as well as some white men. So it's, looking for those people that care and that see something in you that you don't see, that make it important. When I became more senior in the organization, I made it a point to seek out people who had the skills that I found that I was lacking. And I remember having conversations with people who were probably mid-level, lower to mid-level people. And they were like, oh no, I'm a professional. I don't need a mentor or sponsor. And I'm like, no, you always need those people in your life, no matter where you are, who can teach you something new. And sometimes they're even more junior than you. There's, a lot of this reverse mentoring going on, in terms of both technology, as we talked about, my gaffes there, but also in terms of understanding how to motivate, these new generations that we have in the workplace. If you look at the workplace today, I think we're up to 5 generations possibly,
Yes.
and they all react to different things, and neither is right or wrong. And you need each of them working full throttle to get to the right place. And it's easy to say,
Absolutely.
oh, millennials are this or Gen Xers are that, and not understand the strengths that they bring to the table. And even, what boomers are, boomers, we've all heard, the derogatory things about, hey, boomer right now. So the whole thing is each of them brings something, but the idea, especially if you're in management or leadership, how do you understand each of those generations, and how do you get them to bring their best selves to your organization?
That's for what makes for great conversations, is to be open to the fact that not everybody works in the same way. Not everybody brings the same experiences to the workplace. They bring their own experiences. And from my point of view, that's what brings creativity and innovation to an organization, is when you include those various voices.
Right, because it stops and makes you think about things. It's interesting. Even though as a leader or manager, it's also about how you communicate. I was talking to one of the great trial attorneys, and he was explaining to me how when he's trying a case, how he looks at the jury makeup and he figures out to make his message points in different ways. With boomers, it's more oral. With some of the more junior things, it's more video and visual and in snippets and the time. And he really thinks about the science behind it, because he's trying to position his case for the most impact. And the same way that if you're a manager or a leader,
Yes.
you're trying to, you want the workforce to understand the mission and the purpose and how to galvanize them. So it's, taking that time to strategize about your message points and how they'll be received given your audience is important.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's really about knowing your audience and how do they want to receive communication. In my work that I do with individuals, we talk about communication and asking the other person, well, what is their preferred method of communication? Because we can't assume that our preferred method is the receiver's preferred method of communication. And really understanding there's communication styles. Do they like bullet points? Do they want longer explanations? And and keeping track of that. I mean,
No, it's
a lot of work.
I remember even when I had new managers, I would, talk to them in the beginning. What is your communication style? How do you want this to work? And I thought I would get it. And like 2 months later, I'd go back and I'd say, so is this working for you? Is this because, some people's idea, no, I am really hands off. Well, they think they're hands off, but they're really not. So sometimes going back and having those checkpoints and making sure
That's
that the
good advice.
communication is working is important.
Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice right there, is the check-ins and seeing, yes, you had an agreement up front. Is it actually working in practice, and what needs to be
Yeah.
tweaked? So we
Very few
evolving.
micromanagers think they're micromanagers. No one considers I'm a micromanager.
If you had to go back in time with the perspective that you have now, what would you tell your younger self? What's your best advice to your younger self?
I think I would take more time to invest in myself and realize that you're more ambitious than you think. I was one of those people who early on my success was built on keeping my head down and doing good work.
Yes.
And I don't think I invested enough time in a broader perspective of what was possible. And so investing sort of some more time in myself, as well as strengthening my network in branding myself a little bit more.
So I was like you with putting the head down because that's how I was socialized um, from my family. Just put your head down, do the work. Go to high school, go to college, good job, promoted, same thing. But somewhere along the way, the rules of the game changed, and nobody gave me that except I learned it the hard way.
Right. And the rules change, and also what gets you to some places doesn't get you to the next level.
Correct.
And sometimes even I have found what's gotten you to this level can hurt you getting to the next level, because you were an issue spotter. You were good at raising the alarm and telling stories. When you get to a certain level, they want people who come in the room with that gravitas and aren't alarmed and aren't issue spotters, but people who are solutions oriented, who come in and figure out how to march forward. And so it's sort of changing sometimes things that have been inbred to you as bringing you success, that you
Yes,
have to modify it.
absolutely. And that's a little bit of an art and a science to train yourself to do that. And I can see where you come in to help support people on that journey. So, Sheila, what would you like people to remember about our conversation today?
What I'd like people to remember is really that empowering people really is best for them, for you, and for the business. And helping people get to that place is, to me, one of the greatest rewards that someone can have, which is why, I've changed careers and I'm focusing on trying to get people to those levels so they can have the careers that they want, which is different for everybody.
So, I'm going to repeat that. It's about empowering people to put their best face forward and to really empower people to embrace their career, their purpose, their journey that they were
Yes.
meant to have. So, how can people find you, Sheila? Because we definitely want them to find you.
Well, I am on LinkedIn. I am at, my website is www.focus-forward-consulting.com. And you can reach me at Sheila at focus-forward-consulting.com. And I'd be glad to, hear from people and give a 30-minute free consult if that's, helpful to anyone and who's struggling right now. I know right now with everything that's going on, people have fears of uncertainty with regard to, where they are with their employment and, trying to best position themselves. But I will tell you right now, a lot of my clients are getting job interviews and they're finding dream jobs, and they haven't been terminated. They're finding their dream jobs in this environment and navigating their way to it, which is, tremendous. That people can, that's the thing about perseverance and resilience. Those people who have those traits will find a way.
Absolutely agreed. So I'm going to repeat this. This is, you can find Sheila on at LinkedIn. You can find her via her website, which is www.focus-forward-consulting.com. You can email her directly at Sheila at focus-forward-consulting.com. She is graciously offering a 30-minute free consultation that I hope you take her up on. And really what she is doing is, even in this environment, she's empowering and inspiring others to find their dream jobs, and showing people how they are resilient and persevering through these challenging times. Sheila, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story today and your insights. And to our audience, I hope that you are inspired by Sheila's words about being empowered and embracing your journey and your purpose. And also to our audience, we look forward to the next conversation.